Okay, so for the second video, I'm going to describe how actually we are creating this info cube that we have started. So we'll have two space. This left the space that we have for the info provider is what we are saying always. But here is the development area that we have. As you see, the left column that we have is a column that we are taking the characteristics, key figures that we have created in the info objects, or are available through the default or developed info objects that are already embedded in the SAP library. So we'll call on these dimensions when we are populating it over here. But basically what we do for the info object is to first create the shell that this info cube, the shell that this info cube is embedded in. What's the shell for the info cube? There are three things: dimensions, key figures. These are creating the info cube. Dimensions are basically dimensions of the cube, and then the key figures are what are run into the cube. What is the material in the cube? What's the meat in the cube? And then a navigational attribute, we are basically saying that how we can look at this cube, how we can open up this cube and go into the details that we have. So it's essentially what we have over here. Again, for the assignments that we were using, we were having this info cube. So all those Excel files that I was sending to you, they're all exports of the info cubes created over here. So we had dimensions, we had key figures, we had characteristics that were navigational and you could drill down over. So this is essentially what we are doing here. When we are creating dimensions in the info cubes, there are some dimensions that are already defaultly available. They're data package, time, unit, and one dimension the user will add, and it's called dimension 1. So for this one, we wanted to create it and rename it to product, and then we will populate it with the characteristics material that we have already created. In addition to product, if you look at the star-based schema that is required by your case, that we could look at it over here momentarily. So we have to create a product, we have to create a customer, and then we know that the dimension time is already embedded in the info cube that we are creating. So we don't create the time, we create a product dimension shell already. Now create a new one and call it customer. Okay, so we have these two. Now what we have to do, the next thing is to populate this specific dimensions that we have: time, product, and customer, with the specific characteristics that go with them. Start with the product. For the product, we are using basically the characteristics that we had created. So we hit on this button that gives us the info catalogs, the info object catalogs that we have created, especially for the info area of mine. For you, type in the name of your info area, it will appear for you over here as well. So wanted to take a look at characteristics. Once you click on the characteristics, you have it over here. There we go. I wanted to specify the characteristics material to the product, so I simply just drag and drop it to the product. If you expand it, you will see that this characteristic is showing over here. In addition to that, we will have characteristics of customer. For the characteristics of customer, we will use something that is already embedded in the SAP. So not my info area, I didn't create anything for customer. I click on all info areas and then look for the one called MU0C that I could basically search for MU asterisk, and then it will search for anything that starts with MU and follows by anything. So we can look at this. So there we go, MU0C, which is GBI delivered characters. These are characteristics that somebody else has created for this GBI data that we have. We don't create it, we are using something that is in the library. Similarly, for our projects that you are doing, you could use the info catalogs, the info object catalogs that other people have developed, and then use them in your info cube. How cool is that? We'll have the characteristics, and then we know that what we wanted to use is to use the customer and drag and drop it to the customer dimension that we have. There we go. What we are left is time. How to do the time? Easiest way to do that, go to all info objects, because once you click on it, we could search on the same area in the info catalogs as well. Thirdly, I'm gonna tell you that it's more organized for the time characters. So you just hit on all info objects is filed very cleanly for you, very accessible, more accessible than clicking on the all info object catalogs. Once it gets loaded, it takes a little bit of time. Okay, finally we have it. As you can see, characteristics, time characteristics, key figure, time characteristics. We wanted to use that, so it's very clean, very accessible when you're using that. We wanted to do the zero calendar months 2, and then calendar year, and basically drag and drop it similarly to the time. So calendar months 1, calendar months 2, and then calendar year to time. And there we go. So we have completed the first part of it. Defined the dimensions and populated them with the characteristics. Now I'll pause the video over here to make the other part of the workshop about how to fix the navigation attributes and key figures, which are the rest of the design features of an InfoCube. So follow on the third video, please.